Welcome back to another Tilted Knot video. For the last couple of years, we've been using a canvas bag to hold blankets that we use in the living room during the wintertime or at night when my wife or grandkids feel they need to cover up with something. And I wanted to put something together that was a little bit nicer and would just kind of fit with the existing furniture that I've built for the living room. My wife wasn't exactly sure about the idea. She was fine with just using the canvas bag, but I wanted something that was going to look a little bit nicer and would be easier to contain things so it doesn't become such a mess in the living room. So that's what this video is. So I'm building a blanket chest for the living room. And this one I'm doing a little more simply than I have in the past. I'm not doing any fancy joinery. And it didn't need to be fancy for the purpose that it's in. You'll see a couple mistakes that were made in it, and I'll explain why I think things went the way they did with it. But I'm happy with the end result, and hopefully you'll have some ideas of something that might work for your space as well. But thank you for watching, and let's get into the video. The ash I'm using, I milled down and ran across the jointer at school. So all I need to do is clean up the edges a little bit and make sure that everything is clean and ready to start gluing up panels. After figuring out the grain pattern and orientation I wanted to work with, I can now get these laid out, start getting them glued up, and get the panels put together. When gluing up panels, I like to add a clamp on the edge just to help keep everything lined up a little bit better and help make sure that they're even without having to do a lot of work to get them lined up and flat. Clamping the ends together like this also helps to keep the wood from sliding as I get it clamped in place, and just helps with the overall alignment. After letting the glue set, I can pull it out of the clamps. And here I'm running a card scraper off it just to clean off the glue boogers and get it ready to be stacked up and let it dry overnight. After letting the panels set overnight, I can go ahead and get these cut down to the final dimensions for what I need for the box. The cutoffs from the panels are being used to cut down the skirt that go onto the bottom of the box. The trim for the corners is 1.25 inches by 1.25 inches, and I am cutting this 1/4 of an inch thick to give the appearance of having the solid leg on each corner. I finally got to use my dado stack to cut the rabbets in the wood for the joinery on this box. Now I'm just cleaning up the rabbets a little bit just to clean up the rough edges, make sure it's nice and smooth so that I get the best fit possible on these joints. Yeah. Now it's time to do a test fit, make sure everything lines up properly, and start getting ready to glue this together. And this is what happens when you don't realize that you forgot to actually tighten one of the clamps. After verifying the dimensions and fit, I can go ahead and start getting this glued together and start turning this into a box. Because of the size of this, the corner clamps that are sitting on what would be the top of the box aren't enough to pull the whole thing into square. So I needed to add another clamp on the corner just to bring it in square and make sure that everything was lined up properly. And now for every worker's favorite aspect of woodworking is sanding. I'm just doing a final sand on this, taking it to a 240. It was sanded previously, but I wanted to make sure that it was nice and smooth and ready to start applying the India ink and turning this thing black. The initial coat of the India ink goes on extremely rough, and it's really difficult to actually get it on and get it even with that first coat. The only thing I don't like about using the India ink is the amount of sanding that has to be done. This raises the grain substantially, which requires sanding it back down to a 240 and then applying another coat of the India ink to even things out or to darken it back up. The second coat goes on much easier and uses about half the amount that I used on the first coat. So it ends up being fairly economical to do it this way. It's just a pain in the butt and requires a lot more sanding and steps. Here I'm sanding it back down to get a little bit lighter of a coloring on it and create a huge mess of not only my sander, myself, and the sandpaper. After giving the ink a little bit of time to dry, I can go ahead and start getting the corner pieces cut down, getting it measured for the skirts, and start working on the finishing aspects of this box. I'm using some cabinet hinges for the top of the box. These actually will end up being replaced a little bit later on when I figure out if I want to use the European style or a different type of soft close hinge for this top. I saved the top of the box for last because I wanted to know exactly how much room I wanted and the overall look with the overhang on the box or the reveal. And now I can actually get that measured and cut down, and then I'll get the stain on it and get it ready to finish. For a last minute addition, I am taking this 1/4-inch cedar plank that I have and cutting it to help line the box. One issue I ran into, however, is I didn't have any clamps or any really good way to secure this without either using staples or nails, and neither was an option that I wanted to work with. So here in a minute, you'll see what I came up with to get these in place and get them glued down. This isn't pretty, but it is effective. Here we have the final box. I've got the hard wax oil over the top, and it does a pretty good job of matching everything else. The only thing I think I would have done differently is, instead of having these panels going horizontally, having them go vertically just to match the other cabinetry, and just keep that straight up and down, but that's fine. It's not a big deal. I don't know exactly what happened here. I have to assume that there was something on my glove when I was doing the staining, and this came off as soon as I added the hard wax oil and left that blotchiness. As you can see, the underside of the lid is black. And here you can see the cedar plank that has been added to the chest. That was my wife's request because we are storing blankets in it. She wanted something that would help keep the bugs out, and that was the best way to do it. And for the overall look, here's where we're at. The blue tint that you see on everything is actually because of the blue LED lights that we have embedded up into here. That we use for backlighting. The LED strip, that is going to be changing. I've got a different style of light strip we're going to be putting up there, and get this eventually set up so that as while we're watching something, we have more of the ambient lighting that will adapt to whatever we're watching. And this kind of also gives you an idea of how little space we actually have to work with in this living room. But thank you for watching. Hopefully you saw something that will help you, give you some ideas, and I will see you on the next video. Thank you.